We have seen that the truth, as I take the word, is subservient to existence. It is ontologically secondary and true of something else. Yet that which is generated by existence may be itself ideal, and often must be so, because the flux of existence is blind and precipitates 1,000 accidents of form by merely flowing, accidents supervening on all the material factors concerned in generating them. Truth itself is such a supervening form, not accidental in the sense of being avoidable, since by existing the world fatally determines the truth about itself, but accidental in the sense of adding, at no expense of matter or energy, an impalpable eternal dimension to transitory being. Events did not intend, so to speak, to be recorded, yet in the truth they have left their unintentional mark, their indelible portrait. Even if things escape observation, they cannot escape having been what they were. Existence, as it inevitably generates truth, may on special occasions also generate beauty or goodness, but not with the same pervasiveness. Beauty and goodness are far more accidental than truth. They arise only at certain junctures, when various streams of events, already flowing in definite tropes, meet and mingle in a temporary harmony, a harmony which such of these streams as are organized into psyches may feel and rejoice in. Truth, on the other hand, arises by automatic radiation from every region of fact, since no event can occur without rendering it eternally true that such an event and no other fills that point of space and time. Now, as truth, although in itself only a field of essence, radiates from contingent fact, and is determined and limited by it, so truth itself establishes certain harmonies and distinctions dominating the realm of thought, for thought is originally aroused by events and directed upon them. It is indicative and takes notice, as we say of young children, when their intelligence is dawning. Even when most slumberous and vegetative, consciousness, at least in man, is always partly cognitive, and therefore interested in the truth. Truth thus becomes the arbiter of success in one of the most important functions of life, that of intelligent adjustment on the part of living beings to the conditions under which they live. This adjustment is physical, but the token of it for the spirit comes in foresight, sane imagination, and sentiments pertinent to the facts. Insofar as consciousness can become more than vain sensation or blind anguish, it must therefore aspire to possess the truth. The truth will be declared, however partially, by any opinion that prophesies an event before this event arises, or describes it when occurring, or reports it after it has occurred. Such opinions are all incidental to the truth. They may be framed or not, according to the accidents of human life and intelligence. They reproduce the truth in part as it may be discoverable from their various stations with their various organs, but the truth in its wholeness outruns and completes their several deliverances, and is the standard which these deliverances conform to, insofar as they are true. This possible discovery of truth, or of some part of the truth, is often confused with the truth itself, as if the truth were like error, the moral quality of some idea or judgment, when the latter succeeds, or, in the case of error, fails to report the fact to which attention for the moment is directed. But an idea or judgment is only true if it reports the truth, and false if it contradicts the truth. That which is true is the proposition, relation, or other essence actually illustrated in the facts. If this proposition, relation, or other essence is asserted in a judgment, and the judgment is true by participation, because it speaks the truth, this participation of true judgment in the truth is neither an ontological reproduction by the judgment, which is an invisible act of the mind, of the object, which may be anything whatever, nor is it a vital compatibility of this judgment with all other judgments on all other subjects. Not the assertion as a psychological fact is true, but only that which it asserts, and the difference in quality and value between true ideas and false ideas, taken as states of mind, is a moral difference. The true ideas being safer and probably clearer and more humorous than the false, and marking a success on the mind's part in understanding the world, whereas false ideas would mark a failure. But even this moral quality of enlightening or deceiving us is not an intrinsic passive quality in true or false ideas, as if any clear and distinct idea were true and any vague sensation or sentiment false. The opposite is often the case, because a scent, olfactory or intellectual, may be a true scent and may truly discriminate objects in their most important practical relations, whereas the clearest and most distinct images and definitions may be definitions and images of mere essences, and not at all true. The term idea in this connection is terribly ambiguous. It may mean an essence, the theme or internal object of a feeling or thought. It may also mean the feeling or thought, the moment of living intuition in which such an essence may be distinguished. Finally, it may mean a feeling or thought raised to the self-transcendent value of a belief or judgment, affirming the given essence to be true of some further object. It may be called true or false by assimilation or contrariety to the truth of its object. But an idea that is an innocent feeling or thought, asserting nothing, cannot be true or false. It is a pure intuition of an essence. Much less can the essences given in such intuition be true or false in themselves. They may have been raised elsewhere to the plane of truth by being exemplified in events. They are not rendered true by being evoked in intuition, as all falsehoods and all fancies are evoked also. An idea, therefore, in the third sense of opinion, can be true or false only if it reports or contradicts some part of the truth. And in order to do this, it must be other than an inert essence, and more than a pure feeling or thought. It must be a judgment affirming a given essence of an ulterior object, in which that essence may, in truth, be exemplified or not exemplified. Truth, then, though descriptive of existence, has no existence of its own, remains an ideal standard for any opinions professing to be somewhat true, or true as far as they go. The empirical relations which an opinion, by the action it comports, may have in the world have nothing to do with its truth. If an idea is useful, it is useful, not true. And if an idea is beautiful or comforting, it is not therefore true, but comforting only or beautiful. And if an idea, perhaps an illusion, is harmonious with another idea, the two are harmonious, and both together may be a worse illusion than each of them was separately. Nor would perfect coherence in ideas and the longest dreams make the dream true, although if it contained intelligent mutual descriptions of one part of it by another part, those parts would indeed report a part of the truth about one another. Yet the told truth about that dream, as some parts of it might perhaps perceive, would be that it was a dream and all sheer illusion. To reduce truth to coherence is to deny truth, and to usurp that name for a certain comfort and self-complacency in mere thinking. Why trouble about truth, if I can be sure of never discovering my error? Here we see that curious self-degradation, which is latent egotism. You seem to be making yourself and your experience absolute, yet by that very arrogance you cut yourself off from all intellectual dominion over anything else, and renounce the very thought of natural knowledge or genuine truth. And this fate overtakes the empiricist or pragmatist, no less than the absolute idealist who frankly admits it and thinks it the proof of his essential divinity. The solitary experience might indeed contain true thoughts about its own progress, physics being strictly reduced, for the philosopher, to literary psychology. This would allow truth an absolute standing in the fields of psychology and history, and all opinions of historians and psychologists would acknowledge that absolute truth as their standard. But such is not the position of radical or romantic empiricists, who are bent on denying that there is truth about futures, or any fixed truth about the past, each historian making a new truth and framing a fresh perspective. Transcendental egotism, with the self-contradictory effort involved in denying truth altogether, thus reappears in empiricism on a smaller scale, with the added inconsistency of positing dogmatically the multiple, consecutive, and well-known moments in which experience and truths are to be lodged. The attempt to ignore the being of truth will be discussed later. Here I am concerned only with the increment of physical references requisite to raise intuition into truth. If spirit were not incarnate, if it had no bodily organ, if in consequence it were not domiciled in the material and temporal world so that certain things did not press upon it and trouble it more than others, if in a word it had no object but the realm of essence, then truth would not need to enter into its thoughts. For in that infinite field no truth would be found distinguishable from the structure of pure being, in which every alternative is equally present. Only if the spirit became by chance self-conscious, and distinguished its survey of essence from the field of essence itself, and wondered why this survey should occur in this particular order, and have these arbitrary limits in scope and direction, only then would truth, in its contingent fatality, loom before the mind, truth and fatality coming into being together with existence, because evidently the spirit, with its intensity and insecurity of attention, and its rambling progress, preeminently exists. Truth in dialectic is decidedly ironical and backhanded. What the reasoning mind demonstrates and discovers is only a certain figure in the tapestry of ideas. This figure is, in that realm of essence, interwoven with every other possible figure, and is in no sense the true figure proper to essential being. Because essential being, by definition, is infinite and contains all figures. Yet the reasoning mind, in threading that particular path in the labyrinth, is really exploring the truth regarding the initial occasions and fundamental categories of its own thinking. In chopping wood or in using words, men originally lighted upon the square and the triangle, and defined those essences. These essences are true of those blocks or of those conventional concepts and categories of speech, so that any further elaboration by dialectic of the essences chosen is by implication true also of those blocks and those notions. At least it must be so if the original affirmation of the square and triangle was true absolutely. But it may well be that these ideas arrested by thought were only loosely applicable to the existing objects, in which case the more those ideas were elaborated dialectically, the further probably would they stray from the truth. Existence, as if charged with electricity, turns a whole region of essence into a magnetic field. Not merely do the characters materially embodied in some fact or event become, as it were, incandescent, but all the still opaque essential relations of those characters become pertinent to that existence. A fertile mind will contrast the fact as it is with the fact as it might have been, especially as the movement of external events and the movement of intuition go on at different rates and in incongruous directions. Intuition, for instance, often runs backwards, as evolution cannot do, or jumps over space and time by confusion of similars. while nature endlessly repeats similars, but never identifies them, and never leaves out the alien context that separates them and renders them existentially many. The play of intuition over the realm of essence, though limited and guided by the genius of each psyche, is far freer than the plodding, blind course of cosmic events. Imagination makes comparisons, conceives alternatives, regrets that they were not realized, ventures to prophesy their realization, becomes inspired, and ends perhaps by condemning the whole world and calling it deceptive and false, in contrast to the shining truth of what it ought to be. All the errors, illusions, pathetic fallacies, and poetic myths with which the human mind distinguishes the truth are so many borrowings from outlying regions of essence. Characters interpolated in lieu of characters undiscovered, or extensions of the characters actually found. It is not always fancy, however, or religious passion that flies from accidental truth to necessary possibilities. Cold logic may do so also. Let a fact have any total character you choose. It will at once be true not only that this fact has this character, but that it has not any other character. But all the other characters, which this fact has not, compose the realm of essence in its residual infinity. If this fact be John Smith, it is true not only that he is John and Smith and man and mortal, but that he is not Jonah, not the whale, not Jehovah, not any other of the disparate things that infinite patience might enumerate. Thus by privation and negatively, any fact drags the whole realm of essence into the realm of truth, or rather into that of error, since outlying essences are here introduced, not by genial intuition of their ideal being and sympathy with that variety of forms, but in a fault-finding and depreciatory tone as things missing and false. It is in this way, perhaps, that a starved Puritan, clutching the bare bones of reality with the material terror, might conceive the realm of essence, and think it the abyss of night. The impertinence of qualifying the outlying realm of essence as false may confirm the impropriety of qualifying it as true. False and true are nether accidents, and their very contingency renders it impossible for us to say to what extent they may, in the end, color the realm of essence with truth or falsehood. For there is no knowing how much of essence, in the end, may be exemplified in existence, or may fail to be so exemplified. The congruous interest in respect to essence is logical and aesthetic, not documentary or moral, or rather, no interest and no reference to events is congruous at all, but only the infinite plasticity of intuition playing over the infinite variety of being. Before going deeper into this subject, it may be well to make explicit the sort and degree of validity proper to such an argument. Much less is being asked of the goodwill of the reader than he may at first suspect. Nothing at all is being asked of his credulity. I am not defending any belief. The only belief that I myself entertain, because I find it irresistible, is the belief in a realm of matter, the expectation of persistence and order in a natural world. And this is a belief which I am confident the reader shares, although he may prefer to express it in other words. It is only as details in an assumed natural world that the reader and the very book I am writing exist for me at all, but the realms of truth and of essence are in quite another case. To them I assign no existence, in them I demand no belief. They are not to be conceived as hypothetical regions of fact, annexed to the realm of matter as heaven and hell might be annexed. The smile of the critic who will not be fooled into believing in them is entirely justified. They are not proposed as objects of belief. They are proposed as conceptual distinctions and categories of logic. as one of many languages in which the nature of things may be described. Anyone who wishes is free to discard these categories and employ others. The only question will be how he will get on, what sort of intellectual dominion and intellectual life he will achieve. Also, whether he will really be using other categories in his spontaneous and successful contacts with the world, or only a different jargon in his professional philosophy. Professional philosophies, sincere and even impassioned enough in controversy, are often but poor hypocrisies in daily life. But the fortunes of other systems do not concern me. I am addressing those only who are willing, for the time being, to accept my language.